Hi, I'm Ashley.
And I'm Chris, and this is Business by the Books.
Welcome to Business by the Books, where we believe that leaders are readers. So if you are not reading, you are not leading. This is episode 18, and we are covering the book Selling the Invisible by Harry Beckwith, and this was published in 1997. And
A long time ago.
Yes, and you read this. This was right before I was born. So,
Yep.
And you read this when?
2000.
2000.
Yep.
So
20 years ago.
Anna wasn't born.
Yep.
So.
It was actually summer of 2000 when I read it.
Wow, that's cool. Sweet. All right. So what is this book about? Sounds like it's about selling.
It is. Well, in the context, what it says is the subtitle of this book is A Field Guide to Modern Marketing. And so as the title implies, Selling the Invisible, a lot of times when you think about selling, maybe you're selling hamburgers or selling hammers or selling tires. To a large extent here in the United States, we've really moved more toward a service economy. Mm-hmm. So as crazy as it sounds, when you go out to eat at a restaurant, you may be going there for the food, but the service is the thing that you remember, right? Mm-hmm. And if you think about it, I mean, sometimes you get bad food, but more often what you remember a restaurant for is the service experience that you had. Mm-hmm. And so his point is that if you're going to build your business, it's the invisible things that you don't see that you're selling is what makes people want to come back and do business with you.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it's a really innovative way to kind of explore, what's really marketing. And the book is just chock filled with stories and just little one-liners and all those kind of things. So it's a really entertaining, it's kind of book you could take on an airplane and read it from here. By the time you get to Denver, you'd probably be done with it.
Cool. So just from the title and kind of, kind of what you summarize, how you summarize the book, it sounds like it's more about selling ideas and selling, the experience rather than it is selling a tangible item.
And sometimes that's harder. Mm-hmm. It's easy if you sell hammers. It's easy to sell a hammer, but if you sell a hammer but you have a lot of other things and people have an experience, and we think about a lot of different things. We think about restaurants. We like to travel, and so you think about hotels, and how does the hotel make you feel? Do they make you feel accepted and warm, and it makes you want to go back? And I think companies have cultures where people get excited and they want to go to work, or people are like, well, I'm going to go to work today. And so I think that the concept in this book is that you're intentional in doing things, and also taking note of things that work and things that don't work, and just making sure that you're continuing to do the things that do work.
Yeah, in a lot of ways, this sounds very much like a first world concept and a first world idea,
right.
Because
you put others first.
Exactly. It's very much so. Sounds like just that's so interesting. Sweet, awesome. So tell us more about this book and
So one of these things, I love quotes, and I drive you and your siblings and your mother crazy.
You
with
like
all
to
my
make
quotes.
up your own quotes.
I do. Sometimes I do. Yeah. Sometimes they don't make sense, but they do to me. So.
Oh, that's good. I'm glad.
But I have 3 here, and I thought we could kind of camp on these. So page 146, one of them is being remembered often is the key to getting business. And then page 220 is don't raise expectations you cannot meet. And then page 90 is familiarity breeds business. Spread your word however you can. So I remember one time one of the professors who's on my PhD committee, he said, Chris, look, when you go to these conferences and you present all this technical information, he said, odds are people are going to forget what you talk about, but you never want them to forget about you. And I was like, man, that's great. So I actually kind of took that, subconsciously. So when I do presentations, I try to be engaging and I try to be entertaining and interesting.
The opposite of an engineer.
Exactly. And I'll admit, a lot of times you go to conferences and guys just stand up there and present things, but then you look at the TED Talks and those speakers for 18 minutes, they're engaging and they're full of energy. And I really wish, that everybody could step up their game. And it's not that difficult. I mean, I think most people are passionate about what they're talking about, but you got to exude that, and you have to kind of draw your audience in. So anyway, I feel like to some degree being remembered as the key to getting business is you can do really good work, but if nobody remembers who you are, like I watch commercials on TV, and there's some of these really good commercials, and at the end, then they have the name of the product, and I'm like, what does that even have to do? It was a great commercial, but you just wasted $10 million because I'm going to remember the commercial, but I'm never going to remember you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right? And the purpose of marketing is for people to remember who you are.
Yeah, absolutely. I love commercials. Ironic. It's just weird because nobody likes commercials, but I do because I'm a marketing major. And so I love one of my favorite commercials that is extremely applicable to the product is actually a product that we use with this video. It's Artlist, which is our intro to the podcast is a song, and that's where we got that song from. And I found them they were advertising on YouTube, and I think I showed you guys, it was this guy working at a computer, and he's just like going through songs that are just mundane that everybody uses, and then the narrator is like, you want to spice up your soundtrack or playlist or whatever, and he's like, and they start playing this awesome song, and he gets up from his chair, he starts dancing, and then like their tagline is music so good you'll forget you're working. And I love it. It's so cool. It's a perfect example of if it's, yes, of course they're selling a product, but they're selling an experience, and they're really that commercial is so memorable. It is my all-time favorite commercial for sure. Right. But yeah, I love that. So yeah, they ingrained themselves in my mind. And then another great example is all of the Super Bowl commercials that happen. Oh yeah. Right. Those are the best commercials. Yeah. They're always either really funny or dramatic.
Yeah, my order of interest is least interesting as halftime.
Yeah, it's halftime. Nobody cares.
Moderately interesting is the ball game, and I'm a Dallas Cowboy fan, so they haven't been a Super Bowl in years, so I'm generally not interested. And then the most interesting are the commercials.
They're fun. They're awesome because the goal is what is the most memorable commercial. You want to be the most memorable, and the amount of money that
I was gonna say, and the amount of money that they spend too.
You best be memorable.
You better have your A game.
Yeah, exactly.
So the second one I had is don't raise expectations you cannot meet, and I thought that was really good because you want to be in the business of over delivering, not over promising. Yeah. And so I think that becomes a culture thing. And, everybody has things that go wrong, right? I mean, every plumber probably has a bad job. Every painter has a painting a house where they had some bad experience. Every home builder has a bad house. Something happens. And even in engineering projects, you have some that are better than others. But still with the client, you can overcompensate that by really maybe doing more than you originally committed. And so I think if those situations, when you do have a bad situation, if you hire somebody and they go the extra mile, and I'll give you an example, Mr. Ted built our house and we've loved it. It's been a great house and he did a really good job building it. But we had a leak in a part of the house. And so it was like on a Sunday morning before church one day, and I'm sitting there and it was raining cats and dogs, and I hear this dripping. And anytime you hear dripping in a house, that's not a good situation. Nope. So I go in, I have a spiral staircase in my study that goes upstairs, so I open the door and there's just water streaming down. And of course I panic because I'm like, ugh. So anyway, I texted Ted, and this was on a Sunday morning, and he responded immediately. He said, hey man, we'll come out. And he fixed it, and he didn't charge me anything for it. I mean, my guess on his side, it probably cost $5,000 to $10,000 to have people to come out. But that is when you get a really good product, okay, and you get really good service. I mean, so I've had several people who have built houses with him. And, I don't think I'm the only reason, but when people said, hey, how was your experience with Ted? I'm like, it was great. And I remember the leaking. It wasn't the building of the house, but it was the service after the house. Yeah. It was the invisible part that left me with such a good impression.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I think of I'm biased, but I automatically think of Disney, as cast members.
Don't steal my thunder. It's down here.
But anyway.
No, go ahead. No, you go ahead.
Well, then I'll save it. And we can talk about it. I can talk about
I
Disney
knew you
anytime.
couldn't resist. I'm like, it's the last thing I want to talk about.
I can't resist. I can't because nobody does it. Nobody does it better than Disney. They just don't. So anyway, I'll save it and we can talk about it later. I will gladly wait to talk about Disney.
Resist.
Yep. Sweet, awesome. Well, third quote.
So last one is familiarity breeds business. Spread your word however you can. And that is just being intentional. And I think about, I'm going to ask you a question, see if you can read my mind. I want you to name 3 of the top brands in the world.
In the world?
In the world.
I'm going to say...
And if you get it, just think over the past 100 years.
Oh, 100 years?
Yeah.
Gosh.
Yeah.
Oh, gosh.
It's not that hard. Look around the room. Look on the wall over here that you can't see.
Coca-Cola.
Yeah, here you go. Okay.
Cool.
She can read my
I got
mind.
it. Wow.
Okay.
Got it. Coca-Cola.
Is when you think, and I've literally been all around the world.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, in everywhere I go, I can get a Coke.
Yeah.
And they have branded. I mean, they're probably. I think I heard Shell is the number one brand. I mean, this has probably been 20 years ago because the Shell station, the Shell sign. But Coke has to be one of the top 3 in the world.
Yeah, absolutely.
But the bottom line is they were very intentional. They spent a tremendous amount of money on advertising.
Yeah.
And so I think it's the same thing. We all don't have the same advertising budget that Coke does, but anytime you have an opportunity, let people know about your brand. And I even think about with ADV, one of the reasons that we started IDT Expo was to allow ADV to help our clients connect with our clients and their clients.
Yeah.
And so we kind of created this whole platform that helps ADV, but my primary thing is to help our clients. Because one of the things I've learned, and we talked about with Zig Ziglar, see at the top, if you help enough other people to get to the top, you're going to get right along there with them.
Yeah, absolutely. When I think of, to be honest, when I think of that quote, I automatically think of politicians because in a lot of ways, a lot of people will literally just vote for you if they've heard your name.
Right.
Which is so interesting.
Or they might vote against you if they've heard your name.
Yes, exactly. But one of my favorite examples is Tiger King with Joe Exotic, and he ran, I guess it was in 2018 for a governor of Oklahoma. And he literally, he got 20% of the vote. I can promise you it was not because of his ideas. It was because he was so well known. He had a brand. He had a brand. And so that's just interesting to me. It's like just the familiarity of like, oh, Joe Exotic. It's the crazy cat guy.
And he's a great promoter,
he
right?
Is. He really is.
And that is so important. I mean,
It's so
a lot
weird.
of these books, we talk about selling and all those kind of things. But, like we're associated with Rose Hill Christian School. I just finished being chair. It's like even we talk about with Rose Hill is getting a brand out there. And so that what do people associate with your brand? And so like at Rose Hill Christian School, we want good education. We want great families who are followers of Christ. And we want to have, kids and students who are leaders in the future. That's the brand that we want to build.
Yeah.
But it requires being intentional,
Yeah.
So if you run a business, you've got to be thinking about that all the time. And in a small business, the brand is, sometimes it's the senior partners or the managers of the company. They're the face of the organization. Once you get probably past 50 to 100 people, the work that you do becomes the brand.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I love it. Sweet. All right, when are we going to talk about Disney?
Okay, here's what we'll do it. So basically, one of the things that he does, and this is a good book. Number one, as I said, it's entertaining, it's easy to read, but he's got some very practical applications. Okay, and so on page 19, he talks about the possible service industries exercise 3 stages or eras of evolution. Okay, so stage 1 of any industry is meeting minimum standards, meaning that the company can produce a reliable product or experience. So let's do restaurants, okay? So you can go in and we have our favorite restaurants. Obviously Chick-fil-A would probably be at the top of the list, but we like Whataburger. And these are, I'm talking about fast food.
Yeah.
You got Taco Bell, KFC. And so you go in and you get your food. That's the minimum that you expect.
You would hope.
Yeah, you would hope, and sometimes even with those, okay, maybe you don't get what you want, okay? But the food's delivered warm, it's, reasonable price, and it tastes okay. Okay, fast food, you don't generally tend to expect a whole lot.
Yeah.
Okay, it'd be different than like Taste of Texas or Perry's or something like that.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's a stage 1 business. If you can do that, you can probably at least stay in business, okay? But you may not make a lot of money. Okay, so that's stage 1. So stage 2 is that you differentiate yourself from competitors where a company answers customer needs and is market driven. And so that's and I would say I'll put Chick-fil-A in that camp. Is that you go there, you're going to get good food, and you generally walk out of there saying, you know what, I expected a good experience, but I got a great experience. Okay, and then stage 3, which is your Disney opportunity. Okay,
Yes.
so stage 3 involves surprising the customer and exceeding expectations. And what I wrote here was, and you didn't know this, but I said a good example is when Disney entered the theme park business, and we're big Disney people. You're really a big Disney people.
I've worked at Disney World.
I mean, she loves, and we took her first time when she was 4 years old, and we just like it. And I like it for a couple of things. As an engineer, I love the technology, and I think it would have been fun maybe to work at Disney and kind of to invent the rides and do a lot of the technology things. But We like the hotels. You know, we always stay on site, and they're expensive, but we have a good experience. And we like the customer service. I mean, I'll let you talk about that. But I think in general, when we first started going, when you were little, almost 20 years ago, because I didn't grow up. I grew up around Disney, but we never went to the theme parks.
Yeah.
I mean, I listened to the records and read books and all those things. But it's almost unimaginable because they connect with you emotionally. Now, I will admit, I like Whataburger, but I don't think I've ever gone to Whataburger and I've eaten it and I'm like, oh my goodness, it changed my life. I just got to go back.
Yep.
And we have gone to Disney many times, and probably if you add all the amount of money, we probably could have put you through college.
Oh yeah,
right?
easily.
I mean,
for sure.
over a 20-year period.
Yeah, exactly.
So anyway, I'll let you talk about it, but I think Disney is probably the ultimate stage 3 business where, and you can do the same thing. If you own a business and you go the extra mile and you work hard for your clients and you really care about them deeply, people are going to want to do business with you.
Yeah. Well, and that was, just working at Disney. It's there's two sides of it too, right? So there's the working for Disney, and then there's also being a guest and actually getting to experience Disney. So on the cast member side of it, what was so fun, it was just such a beautiful experience because I'd grown up as a guest, but actually getting to be on the cast member side of it, the focus was on the guest.
Right.
So I got to be on the side of that where, man, my job is to give these people an opportunity to experience happiness. Something that so many of the cast members agree with is there's this consensus that we want to provide families an opportunity to get away from their normal. We want to provide an opportunity for them to escape from reality and really just be themselves and really immerse themselves in a whole completely different world. Versus, I had gone to the main competitor that Disney has is probably Universal. And I had gone to Universal once during the semester that I was at Disney, and it was a lot of fun. It was great, but something that separated Universal from Disney was that it was completely immersive at Disney versus with Universal, the employees that worked there were not all in. It wasn't about necessarily creating the full-on experience for the guests.
It's a difference in the culture.
Yes,
right?
exactly.
Yeah.
It was a culture thing for sure. And so working at Disney was so unique and so fun, and that it was, for example, my role, I was a custodian. I was a custodial cast member, and so my role was specifically at Disney Springs. And so my opportunities to create magic were very different than custodial members who were in the park. So one of my roommates, Lizzie, was a custodial cast member at Magic Kingdom, and she had shared an opportunity that she had with me, there was a sweet family, and it was the end of the day, and they were just overwhelmed with everything, and they could not find a particular toy that the little boy had wanted, and they were just stressed out. They had a lot of things going on that day, and so Lizzie got to actually go to the cast members working in one of the stores and said, hey, this family's having a really rough time. What can we do about getting them maybe a free toy? And she actually got them a free toy, and this mom hugged Lizzie and was like, you have no idea how much that means to me. And so just really went the extra mile for them. And so with me working at Disney Springs, the environment's a little bit different. But even with that, I had the opportunity to engage in guests, and it was great at Disney Springs because it's a lot more relaxed. People are not as amped up to get on rides and stressed out, don't have as many code V's, aka vomit and all that stuff. So for me, my experience was a lot more of just having a conversation, just being engaging,
just caring
being
about
there,
people.
just caring about people. And it was just such an incredible experience. But on the flip side of it, being a guest, because I got to go as a guest quite often, was also very, very special and unique. My now fiance, Matt, he visited me for my birthday when I was there, and he had never been to Disney World before. And so I was like, oh, fresh meat, we love it. So we went to Magic Kingdom. He was there for 2 days, and so the first day we went to Magic Kingdom, and we were celebrating my birthday. And so just all throughout the day, we would just mention that it was my birthday, and the stuff that cast members would do. I think I ended up getting like 3 free treats throughout the day. I had so many people telling me happy birthday and all of this stuff, and it was really funny. The second day when we were walking around Epcot, we were walking around the World Showcase and walking around the different countries, and Matt's just looking around, and he's never been a huge Disney fan, but he was just looking around, and I will never forget when we were in Italy. And he turns to me and says,
That's hilarious.
yeah, and he's like, I understand why people love Disney so much. And I'm like, yes!
That's the closest you get to him saying,
yes!
I really like this place.
Yes, exactly. And so, and that's something, for me, it's like, I think I have a bias because it's a nostalgia thing, because I grew up going. But even Matt, who didn't grow up on Disney movies, who didn't grow up going to Disney World, going and actually getting immersed and really having that experience with the cast members and seeing that, and just seeing the cast and just the whole entire environment going above and beyond the expectation was just so awesome.
Well, and it all goes back to that's the environment that Walt Disney wanted to create,
exactly.
right? Because he had gone to Coney Island and he saw that experience and, just kind of the normal carnivals and those kind of things. And he wanted something that was a lot more. So I think the challenge for everyone who's in business is, how do you take that Disney culture and adopt it? And as you were talking, I was thinking about a couple of businesses. I mean, one sounds kind of funny, but Discount Tire. I don't think I've ever had a bad experience going to Discount Tire. I will probably always go back to Discount Tire. One of the other things I always think that's interesting in Disney, I mean, all the times that we've gone, I mean, if you probably add all the days up we've been in the park, maybe somewhere between maybe 80. Maybe 80. Okay. So of all of those times and all those hours, so let's say it's 800 hours, okay, as a family, and then you multiply it times 5, that's like, 4,000 or 5,000 hours.
Yeah.
Very rarely have we had a bad experience.
Yeah.
And even I can name on 2 occasions we had people that just kind of went crazy, and they had foul language, and then the security came in and took care of it. But for all of that time, so when you have a really good culture, I think it helps diffuse negative experiences. And the same thing at Discount Tire, you go in there and those young men working there are very responsive, they're very respectful. Yes, sir, yes, ma'am, no, sir, no, ma'am. And you feel like you're being taken care of, even when they're super busy.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I think it's really interesting, and you and our business people, is to observe trends that we see in good businesses, and how do we model those things in our lives, and then especially if we own businesses and we're part of a business, to help build that into the culture of our companies.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and I'm thankful for my experience at Disney for sure, because they're perfect. I want to say perfect model of that. So, yeah.
Well, it's because they make you feel important, right?
Absolutely.
And that's what good service is.
Yeah, as a custodial cast member, I was important to the team. I had the best leaders, the best coworkers. It was just amazing. So I'm
and some
thankful
people
for
forget that. They forget. I mean, the book that we did earlier was managing the professional service firm, and what's the root word of service? To serve.
Yep.
So what it means is that I'm gonna put you as more important than myself.
Yeah.
And that's hard to do. Especially it's hard to do when you don't want to do it.
Oh yeah. Well, and it's funny because if you actually look at, I was technically my term, I was a custodial cast member, and then I was also a part of guest services. So obviously that's a big part of my role. But the term custodial, if you actually look at the root of it, it means to guard and to protect. So that's literally my job. I was protecting Disney Springs. So that I
Aren't you
it.
the guardian?
I'm the guardian.
Guardian of the galaxy.
Yes, yeah, exactly. So, yes, all right. Well, any final thoughts on this book? I've harped a lot on Disney that had nothing to do with this book, but that's okay.
Well, and
Sweet.
He talks about it. So,
oh, good. Oh, I'm glad.
Yeah, it reinforces what you're going to say.
Yay.
So what I wrote was, this is one of those books that is meant to be absorbed. It is meant and intended to be absorbed into your marketing bloodstream and DNA. And business leaders have one main job: to grow their business.
Yep.
That's the number one thing. And there's obviously lots of other parts of that. And I said this book has ideas aplenty to help you out.
Awesome. Sweet. Well, I should read it, I guess. If it mentions Disney, I guess it definitely.
Well, and it's a marketing book.
And it's a marketing book. I have no excuse. It's fine. All right. Sweet. Well, thank you guys for listening to this episode. If you end up reading this one or reading any of our other books, feel free to reach out. We want to know your thoughts and your experiences with the stuff that we're talking about. You can reach out to us at businessbythebookspodcast@gmail.com. You can visit our website, businessbythebooks.com. We're on Instagram at Business by the Books, and we're also on YouTube, Business by the Books. So if you can spell Business by the Books, you will find us. With that being said, you want to close us out?
I'd love to.
Awesome.
Leaders are readers, and if you're not reading, you're not leading.
Thank you guys for listening to this episode, and we will talk to you in the next one. Bye.
Bye.